Welcome back, everybody. We're going to pick up where we left off last time. This is going to be day 4 of my 6-day bikepacking trip. Today is going to be a little bit of a rest day. My parents and sister and I decided to go to Mackinac Island. My dad and I decided we were going to take the bikes and just do a lap around the island on M185, which is actually a Michigan State road that goes through downtown and basically just does a loop of the outside of the island. This right here is the marina and some of the hotels, which, as you can see, gets a little busy. Once you get out of downtown, it gets a little bit better. It's still a very busy bike path, but some amazing views of the water and the cliffs on the island. You'll see coming up here some of the well-known rock formations like Arch Rock, which is kind of really nice to see from ground level. A little bit even nicer to see from a kayak. Lots of little places to stop and look at. One of the places that I haven't actually been to on this island was to Kraken Rock, so that was my goal, was to make it and find it, and it was kind of an interesting thing to go find. I found some directions on the internet that had you going, up a road, then find a dirt path, and take that dirt path until you find a hiking trail, which I wish I could have recorded, but it was so narrow, it was next to impossible to do. But I did find it, and it was actually interesting to see, and I did manage to walk through it, which I have to admit at some points got a little anxious about. Not really claustrophobic, but I don't know, that was a little weird in there in the middle. Managed to find one of the few gravel road descents, and surprisingly didn't have anybody with me on this, so it was kind of fun to go down, which takes you back down into British Landing, which is a good stop. It's about halfway around the island. You can see it gets a little congested at times, but it's not too bad. You get a lot of open spaces. Not a whole lot of people, but it seems that when you hit the sites, you'll run into more people, going to and from. Really some amazing views of the lake. After that, we went into Mackinac City, did a little sightseeing, grabbed dinner, headed back to the campground for a fire. And then day 5, I was starting my trip back south, so I went back into Mackinac City, back onto the Northwestern State Trail, decided to head up to Fort Michilimack and get the obligatory shot underneath the bridge. Which I think I have a similar one from when I did the North Central State Trail a couple years ago. And we're back on the Northwestern State Trail heading out of Mackinac City. This part was pretty nice, it's paved. Still haven't seen a whole lot of people on this ride. A lot of time, it seemed like I was the only one on the trail. Then we get into Carp Lake, was I think one of the first cities I went through. And then I believe this is Carp Lake River. Kind of see it's really similar to the Northeastern State Trail with the geography and plants and trees and fields. Starting to see a lot more houses, and the towns are a lot closer the farther south we go. I think we're coming up, and this is Pellson Airport, one of the, I'm sure it's the only, but it's the biggest airport in northern Michigan from what I know. I used to remember driving up 31 and having the planes feel like they're landing on top of you coming into land. I did stop for some snacks up here at a gas station in Pellston and ran into a guy that was on the Michigan Lakeshore tour. He was kind of skipping some of the hilly sections and taking the bike path down into Petoskey, and I chatted with him for about an hour from Pellston to Alanson, so didn't get any video from that section. So at this point we're just south of Alanson. Just outside of Petoskey, probably a couple miles still. But at this point the path is all paved, which was nice. It was a little bit smoother, a little bit faster. You get to make up a little bit more time. This was Crooked Lake. Coming up to getting towards the end of the Northwestern State Trail, which is going to end up here at Spring Lake Park. And then we're going to pick up the Little Traverse Wheelway. From Spring Lake Park, it's going to basically go along the Little Traverse Bay into Petoskey. And this is the path that's going to take me all the way down to Charlevoix. Come up to one of the trailheads. I've been coming up to this place for years, and I swear it seems like these houses have never changed. Getting some little views of the Little Traverse Bay in between the houses. I don't care how many times I'll see that bay. I think it's probably one of the most beautiful bays I've ever seen, and I could sit there and just stare at it. This section of the bike path was really nice. Like I said, great views of the bay, lots of parks. You're really close to downtown. At this point we're kind of into Petoskey, and I started having issues with my GPS. I was supposed to be meeting my parents at my grandfather's gravesite, and what I can remember at this point was the 17% grade hill to get out of Magnus Park back up to 31, which was really fun on a 75-pound bike. And then the sustained 18%, or I'm sorry, 8% grade up into the cemetery. And we stopped for lunch. Then I continued on. There was a section of the bike path there that is eroding, so it's closed. So there's a little bit of you ride on the shoulder 31. What isn't bad, they had protectors up and big wide shoulder. But this was kind of the home stretch for the day. Everything past East Park was in really good shape. A couple places you can stop at, gas stations, if you need supplies, bathroom, whatnot, water. I did make one pit stop. There's an MDOT rest area. I pulled into, sat there for a little bit, took a break, and then continued on. After this, we ended up on a little bit of US Bike Route 35, which is a 522-mile route that runs from New Buffalo up to Sault Ste. Marie on the west coast of Michigan, pretty much following the shoreline. We actually did a little bit of it leaving Mackinac City. It's on the path for a little while, but it breaks off and then takes the roads and stay closer to the coastline up there. Campground was nice. Had a beach right there. It was pretty much all to ourselves. I think there was 3 other people on it at this point, staying in the campground, so well worth to stay there. You really can't beat those West Michigan sunsets. So this is the start of day 6, and we're leaving out of the campground. I believe that was a gravel pit across the street, so world's largest cherry pie plate, which somehow I missed that on the way in yesterday. This was M66 coming out of Charlevoix, and then we hit the Ireton Car Ferry, which was pretty cool. It's $1 to take a bike across. The lady was telling me that she just had another woman on a bike the day before that was going from Colorado to Maine. And I guess they get a couple bike travelers a month coming through here, which is pretty cool to hear. Couple minute ride across. And once over here, though we were on roads pretty much all day, this section of Ferry Road coming up into Lakeshore Drive was pretty nice. I don't know if it was lower speed limits or just lack of cars, but the ride was pretty nice. And this is the view of Lake Charlevoix going into Boyne City. Once we got through Boyne City, we ended up on M75, which wasn't too bad, a little bit more traffic. That got us into Boyne Falls, where I took a break, and unfortunately the way to get out of Boyne Falls was to take Thumb Lake Road from Boyne Falls back into Vanderbilt, which was a lot of traffic and very little shoulder, and one construction spot that was a one-lane road, which was kind of fun to go through on a bike. Luckily, only one car got mad at me, and one truck decided to take pity on me and decided he was gonna hold up everybody else behind us, so I wasn't gonna get it passed. But I didn't get a whole lot of video, and got a couple photos out of that 12-mile trip. And the only other thing I really remember about this day was it was hot. I think after that stop at Boyne Falls, I'm pretty sure the heat started getting up into the 90s, and it just really wasn't the best day to be on a bike. I don't know if it was just a little bit of everything, but all in all, it was a good trip, and that wraps up my 6-day trip. I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys next time.